debate uncut and after show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Plain Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, BG, Survive the Spin, FE Patriot, Thomas van der Zander, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Sea Level Cultist, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, Iron26, Endless, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Ahmed, Skeptic 936, excuse me, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'll hand across to whoever is in Discord and G+, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set it for today's members-only live stream. So, what we're going to do is respond today to this video. I have put out my link to various different panel members. So, in what we call Master B, formerly on Skype, now on Teams, people are aware that I am having a live stream, albeit to members only, and I am indeed in the Discord server, so if you are a participant in any of those groups, then feel free to join me as I react to this live video. I will put a link to this videographer who is, whose name completely eludes me, Dr. G Explains is the name of the video, and it is Apollo 11 Moon Landing Hoax or History, ? Body Language Analysis. So this is the dude that we'll be watching today, and I'm going to put a link to this particular videographer into my members only live stream, and after the fact, hopefully one of my moderators, if this does end up being a public video, will do the same, and it'll go into the public live stream chat feed. But in the meantime, if you are one of my members, if you did want to pop along to this videographer and let him know that I've done maybe a video that's coming, because it won't be something he can come along and watch because he's not a member. But nevertheless, I have put a link to the videographer, which, again, I've completely forgotten his name. Dr. G, I think it is. Yeah, Dr. G Explains. And yeah, so toddle along, just let him know that I have done a reaction, regardless of it being members only. I'm sure it will eventually reach the public. So there we go. So that's what we're going to be responding to today. As I say, if you did want to join me in Discord, the link below this video does have the link to join if you wanted to do that as a member of the public viewing this video. After the fact, that is. Or indeed, if you did want to join as one of my members, you could still hop in the Discord server. Indeed, if you are one of my participants in the Teams chat, known as Master B, then again, I've shared my G+ link to you if you did want to join me. So there we go. Right, let's get into it, and I need to take that line off mute, do a quick sound check.
With Joe Rogan and Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh is not a skeptic of the moon landing. Joe Rogan seems to be. He doesn't insist that it didn't happen, but he seems skeptical that it did. And one of the things that Joe Rogan talked about was that this press conference was strange, that their behavior was weird. So I thought I would watch it and see what I observed, see if I agreed with that. I decided to look at the comments and some of the raw footage, and a lot of people feel that way. So hopefully this will help you get a better understanding of the body language that we're seeing. Now, one thing.
Okay, so this isn't what I thought it was. I thought he'd be responding to the analysis that was done by Richard D. Hall's expert. So I've completely misconstrued what this video is. So it's his analysis. Okay, you can tell I don't know this videographer because I thought we were doing something else. Okay, so let's just explain what I thought we were doing, because then we can dispense with that because it's not what we're doing. So I've got a completely different mindset to what was going to be happening. So Richard D. Hall did an analysis with a paid, also paid by the government, an expert in statement analysis, and he took apart this exact same affair, if you will, and came up with the conclusion that they weren't being very honest. Now, that's not what he's doing. This guy here is going to be assessing them of his own volition. So I should have really got that from the title. I didn't really read the title. I just clicked the thumbnail on my iPad and went, oh no, straight away, this is perfect.
The thing that's important for me to be upfront about as we start this is that I am not a skeptic when it comes to the moon landing. I have not explored all of the conspiracies about this. I don't know all the reasons people believe that it didn't happen.
All right, well, let me fill you in. So the reasons people believe it don't happen is irrelevant to me. Yeah, belief about something not happening is kind of silly. But there we go. What people believe in something that isn't happening is kind of a crazy notion that I'm not even bother wrapping my head around. But why I know it did not happen is because the sky is not a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we are breathing would disperse into it at a high rate. I actually did set this up on this... I'm not using my projector because I haven't got so much going on as I normally have, which is actually more chaotic because having less screen real estate means it's more difficult for me to actually do this. But I did actually set this up. Yeah, I have. There we go. So you can see me on camera actually reacting to this guy. So if there is prolonged periods where I'm not getting interrupted because I'm just listening and I don't have any panel currently, I'm literally on my Todd, then at least there's me in the video, so he can't call copyright if he takes umbrage to me pointing out that space is fake. So the reason I know they didn't go to the moon is because the area they claim to have travelled through is a second law of thermodynamics violation. That is to say that the area known as outer space, where this rocket ship to get to the moon would have had to travel, would be an area that would enable them to look back on an Earth with high pressure gas, not filling a vacuum. That's a direct violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Therefore, there is no outer space. The sky vacuum is not real. And any journey claimed to be taking place in a sky vacuum is also not real. So they didn't travel through a sky vacuum to get to the moon. Everything they say thereafter, if they're suggesting they did, is a lie. Because they can't have done it. It violates the law of nature.
But I'm going to tell you exactly what I see during this.
Good.
I'm going to tell you if there are signs of deception, and I will tell you exactly what the body language says.
Can't tell us exactly what body language says. You can give your interpretation, but we'll read between the lines and take it as read that you're going to tell us what you think based on what they are doing physically in their appearance and their body.
The goal for every video I do is to be neutral, and I feel the same way about this. So even though I have my...
You said you were going to be neutral, but you've just disclaimed your bias. You don't know why people would believe such a thing. Don't tell people you're neutral if you're going to disclaim your bias immediately.
Perspectives on this, I will tell you exactly what I'm observing from their body language. And after we finish watching some of this footage, we're actually going to go back and look at some of the footage from the press conference before the mission. All right, let's just jump right in.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the Apollo 11 crew, astronauts Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, Edwin Aldrin. Neil?
So if you look at the behavior already, you can see they're all a little bit closed off. Buzz Aldrin's on the left, Neil Armstrong's in the middle, Michael Collins on the right.
Closed off. They look like they're about to be interrogated as opposed to disclaim the greatest achievement of mankind. You know, look at them. I've heard this described previously as someone looking like they've had a dump taken in their cornflakes, and that would be an accurate description of the look on these three men's faces.
So this is going to be their baseline right now. The baseline is basically their default body language.
What? You think this is how they look generally, do you? No, if you're going to get a baseline, well, obviously this guy's no behavioural panel. A baseline is a baseline, right? It's how someone generally behaves as a base, right? Taking this as the standard, it's like what, reset it at 0 when they look the most uncomfortable they've ever looked. No, this is not their baseline.
Oftentimes, particularly when it comes to deception, we look for changes in body language. So right now, all of them are a little bit closed off. They're all touching their hands. They're not wide open, which is something that we look for when it comes to honesty. We'll see if that changes as we keep going.
So what you're saying is they've got a dishonest baseline. Just a standard, they look dishonest. That's what you're saying. This is great. I'm enjoying this more than I thought I would.
It was our pleasure to have participated in one great adventure.
It is our pleasure. Yeah, it looks like it was a delight.
Now, if you look at his shoulders already, they're very bunched up. So he may be somebody that's either uncomfortable speaking in front of others or he feels anxious right now. But this type of shoulder position we think of and we associate with discomfort and stress.
It's an adventure that took place not just in the month of July, but rather one that took place in the last decade.
Sounds nervous. He's got a quiver. What I call a quiver. July. He's wavering in his throat because of tension. And I can do this too. So I had voice and speech lessons. Right? Professionally trained as a voice actor. People are like, how come I can understand you where I can't understand other Brits? It's because I speak correctly. I was trained to in college. So when I hear what I've been trained to avoid, the throat tightening up. I hear that, especially on my audio setup. I've got a really good system. Currently, the kids are being nice and quiet in the next room. The wife's out at a car boot sale because we're poor, looking for presents. But there we go. The general ambience in here is nice and quiet. I can hear something that I've been trained to avoid in my own voice.
Oh, we all here and the people.
Now, you may have noticed he just scooted back. Now, when we are emotionally connected to people, whether it's in court, which is oftentimes what I'm analyzing, or whether it's situations like this, the more we lean forward, the more we're trying to connect with the person we're speaking to. Leaning back, sometimes it can be for comfort, but sometimes it's also a way to disconnect a little bit. Let's look at the context of when he did that.
Well, now let's look at you for a second. So you've just given us a bit of a resume statement, as the behavioural panellists call it, right? You've disclaimed that you do this for courts. Good, it ups you in my credibility, as much as I was joking about your bias earlier. I did pick it based on the fact that you at least got doctor in your title. I don't think you're a Professor Dave bullshitter. I think you are actually doing this for a profession and therefore have a bit of credibility when it comes to your assessment. Psychological or otherwise, obviously we're not dealing with the sciences. This isn't empirical, but by the same token, I do lend a certain degree of credibility to what this man says. And the ease in which he gave his resume statement tends to bolster that, for me at least, a little bit.
One that took place in the last decade. Oh, we all here and the people listening in today had the opportunity to share that adventure over its developing and unfolding.
So for whatever reason, when he talked...
That's a lie, straight up lie. He's just said we all got to share in this adventure. No, the people who listened to it on the radio and watched it on TV weren't sharing in your adventure. Number one, your adventure was a complete hoax, a complete fraud, a complete lie. You didn't travel through a sky vacuum, so what you presented to those people or told them on the radio was not what they were experiencing, nor were they sharing in it. So that's a complete lie.
About this being something that they've been working on for the last decade, he chose that to be the time that he scooted back a little bit. Now, I want you to watch Buzz Aldrin, who's on the left. I want you to watch his mouth right here.
We all here and the people listening in today had the opportunity to share that.
So you see him licking his lips. Now, this is something that Buzz Aldrin does quite a lot, actually. We're going to be talking about that more as we go. But when you lick your lips, it's a way to feel less stressed. It's a way to calm yourself down. It's a pacifying behavior. So
he's got a contradictory opinion. So the behavioural panel would say that that's a preparation, a hygiene preparation. So if he's about to talk, you lick your lips because you don't want any, in my case, coffee. Quite frequently, I don't do that because I'm too relaxed. So I've got a great big smear lipstick of chocolate around my lips. And I'll be doing a video. I don't care. So I'm not doing this. Oh, yeah, I'm about to be assessed for my appearance. Better lick the chocolate off my lips. I don't care. I've got too old to care. Now, that hygiene gesture, there we go. That's how they'd phrase it on the behavioural panel. I'm just being devil's advocate for them, really, because they've obviously got a different opinion to this, which is what I said earlier. This isn't a science. Now, comforter, maybe you could class it as the same thing, but to me, just that looks like he's hearing his colleague about to finish talking and is doing a little hygiene gesture, preparing his mouth to speak. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe you're right, and who knows, who cares, but so far this is a bit of a nothing burger. What I hear is the man talking, and I'd rather do the deception-dective methodology of listening to what they actually say. He's widening out his personal experience that's supposed to be the greatest achievement of mankind's history to the wider audience. That to me is incredibly telling. Now, if I achieve something, this book, right, I'm getting help, and I'm having to subtly bat off that help and retain it as mine, because it is. And I'm not going to let anybody take the credit when it's got my bleeding name on it. It'll be my book. Now, am I going to say it's our book unless I'm pacifying somebody who's actually assisting me in the process of making it? In other words, giving me help. And I need them to feel like I'm very, and I am, appreciative of their help with my book. Yeah, it's mine. And I'll disclaim it as that when it's got my name on it. This is his achievement. Well, he's expanding it out to the wider audience. We've all experienced this. No, we haven't. No, we watched you lie about it on TV, Neil.
So why is it that right now, as Neil Armstrong is talking about this, why is that a time that Buzz Aldrin is trying to calm himself down? Let's see whether or not there's a pattern to it. But oftentimes that suggests that you're feeling something. We don't have to calm ourselves down for no reason.
Yeah, he's about to lie through his back teeth, that's why. I already know, because I already know what he's about to lie about and why he'd have to lie about it. He hasn't travelled through a sky vacuum. He hasn't been to space. He hasn't landed on the moon. You can be damn straight he's going to be nervous about it.
So whether or not that he's just anxious being on the world stage because this was potentially or arguably the biggest event in human history at.
There you go. So wouldn't he be excited to tell him that? I'm excited. I can't wait to tell people about my book. All I've done is written a book. I can't wait to tell people about it, though, because I'm very excited about my achievement. His greatest achievement. It's collective bullshit. Just didn't happen.
At the time, maybe that's just anxiety provoking for him, but we are seeing him do pacifying behaviors. Michael Collins less so. He just seems to be engaged right now, but we'll see if that changes.
Adventure over its developing and unfolding in the past months and years. It's our privilege today to share with you.
So as Neil Armstrong's continuing to talk, watch his hands right here. See, he's picking at his knuckle right there. This, once again, is a pacifying behavior. Those are what we look at, and those are what we focus in on when it comes to whether or not somebody's being deceptive or is.
Again, why would there be any need to be deceptive? So far, we've really heard nothing, right? What have we got so far? This is the first few seconds. So why would he need to be picking his knuckles? It's because he's preparing himself for the lie that is about to be told. Yeah? It's a preemptive stress.
Is uncomfortable. The reason that we associate calming behaviors, pacifying behaviors with being deceptive is because we oftentimes feel uncomfortable being deceptive. We don't like to do it. So when we're doing it, we have to do things to calm ourselves down.
Privilege today.
Yeah, lying's mentally hard. Yeah, he's correct.
To share with you some of the details of that final month of July that was.
Again, distancing language, as behavioural panel would describe it. The events of May. No, you achieved the greatest thing man could ever achieve according to what you are lying about. Right, that's your lie. So it's just the events of May. Distancing language. Let's see if our doctor friend picks up on that.
Certainly the highlight for the three of us.
Again, widening, right? He's the first man on the moon. He was the first man to do something ever. Immediately broadens it to his two colleagues. I love it. This is as much an opportunity for me to react to this as it is for him.
Of that decade. We're going to divert a little bit from the format.
And there's Buzz Aldrin licking his lips again. Not seeing a whole lot from Michael Collins yet, but I'll continue to watch.
He doesn't mention the glance towards the camera. Yeah? The glance towards the onlooking, judgmental audience that he just glanced at. No mention. Yeah, Buzz just glanced over there at the camera. Who's going to be looking at me lying? He's asking himself.
Past press conferences and talk about the things that interested.
This is the reason we get the more modern version of this with whooping and hollering and excitement, because people have looked at this and gone, why do they sound like someone's just taken a dump in their cornflakes? Why is the monotone expression of this man a man that we're supposed to believe has just stepped foot on the moon? Yeah, it's not very believable, is it? So what do we get now to counteract this? Woohoo! We landed on the moon! Yeah, that's what we get. Yeah, you get a more excited reaction out of Dumb and Dumber when he realises it in the 90s with a newspaper article on the wall of a diner. His reaction is more excited than this one. Jim Carrey, that is.
Us most, in particular the things that occurred on and about the moon.
Again, distancing language. The things that happened on or about the moon. This is your greatest achievement. Could you distance yourself from it a bit more, perhaps? Make it a bit more vague.
We will use...
So if you're wondering why unconsciously so many people are saying they're being weird, they're being deceptive.
It's because they're lying through their back teeth. Because they didn't do what they said they did. They haven't been to the moon. They didn't travel through a sky vacuum. This is all lies. That is why they are acting like they are.
Look at how still they all are. Now, I know this was the 1960s. Men tried to be very stoic.
Yes, men in the 60s were much more still. What a crock of crap! This is great. Can you imagine him standing in front of a judge and saying that? Yeah, men in the 60s were a lot more still. What a load of nonsense.
Stoic, so it could really be as simple as that. But they're all very still. And the reason that being still matters is that we tend to associate stillness with trying to hide.
No, trying to keep self-control, right? If you're going to be lying, you've got to keep a lot of stuff under control and locked down and focus on what words are coming out of your mouth, because at the time of the lie and the deceit, that seems like the most important thing, hence him licking his lips, getting ready hygienically to speak, because he knows that the words are going to be much more critical than his body language. Where you come in, now, don't get me wrong, that's still critical, but just so that's avoided, everything else gets locked right down. That's what's happening here, because they're bullshitters, they're all liars.
Because there's an instinctual part of us that when we feel threatened, we believe if we sit still enough, we can avoid that threat. So oftentimes when people...
Exactly. Now, that's much more like it. I see, I knew I'd like this guy. Yeah, exactly. Deer in the headlights. So their reaction is to one of being deceitful. Why would they need to be if they weren't being deceitful? Why would they be deer in the headlights in this scenario? Nothing's happened yet. They've got nothing to fear. They're about to disclose the greatest achievement ever, yet they're worried. Yeah, deer in the headlights. Exactly.
Are being deceptive or they're lying, they try to move less. That's sort of the goal, because we don't want to be seen. Watch this right here.
The things that occurred on and about the moon.
This little finger twiddling gesture from Neil when he lies about going to the moon.
We will use...
Didn't get picked up on. Can't believe it. I'll rewind that bit. Watch Neil Armstrong's fingers when he specifically talks about what is supposed to be mankind's greatest achievement. Watch his hands.
Watch this right here.
The things that occurred...
Things that occurred, little finger movement.
On and about the moon.
On and about the moon, distancing language with a little twitch of the thumbs. How interesting. Doesn't get a mention.
We will use...
And then there is Buzz Aldrin licking his lips again. Does this mean that the moon landing didn't happen? Of course not. But it does show that there is stress around this.
So does licking lips mean the moon landing didn't happen? Of course not. Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. Does it mean that the sky could possibly be a vacuum? We're breathing high-pressure gas. That is gas at pressure, pressing on stuff. A container? If the sky was a vacuum and we lived in a containerless system without anything to press on, we'd have no gas pressure. The gas would dissipate into the sky vacuum at a high rate of speed. It's called entropic dispersion and is a law of nature. Specifically, the second law of thermodynamics, entropy, gas dispersion. Gas fills space. So we are definitely breathing high-pressure gas. That goes without saying. But if there's an assertion that there's a 10 to the minus 17 torr sky vacuum to travel through to get to the moon, then we'd all be dead because we'd have no gas to breathe.
There is unusual body language that we're seeing, and I think that that's...
It's because they're lying.
What people are keying in on, and that's what people are focusing on.
It's because they're lying. They're lying about travelling through a sky vacuum to get to a moon that they haven't walked on. They did it on a set.
They're seeing that there is something that makes them feel unsettled when they watch this.
Yeah, they're unsettled because the people who are lying are unsettling. These liars, these astronauts, did not do what they said they did. They did not travel through a sky vacuum. There is no sky vacuum. It's akin to travelling through a wardrobe. There is no Narnia to walk on called the moon. There's a light in the sky that is alleged to have been walked on by men who lie. These men who are lying.
This.
A number of films and slides, which most of you have already seen.
Again, distancing languages, talking about the slides and the images. What about your personal experience, Neil? You didn't have one. All we've got is the images and the slides, the photos, that they're not. Yeah, what about where would you reach for if you had done this? Am I going to reach for the recordings and the transcripts of us producing a book when we're going through it and checking the spelling on it? No, I've got first-hand experience of the tedious process that it really is, how long and drawn out it is, because I've experienced it. So I'm going to draw on words like I just did from my experience rather than referring to the transcripts of it or the images of it or the slides of it. No, Neil, you just didn't do this. That's why you've got to appeal to other things that aren't your personal experience, because you haven't had one. I know you haven't had one because you didn't travel through a sky vacuum. It weighed very heavy on you towards the end of your life, didn't it, Neil? Yeah?
And with the intent of pointing out some of the things that we observed on the
You went to the frickin' moon! Jump up and down on the table! Yeah, is what they told them after the fact, right? Which is why we get the whooping and hollering now.
the spot, which may not be obvious to those of you who are looking.
For every 10 words that are nothing, we haven't had a single word about the moon, and it's his experience that we want to hear about here, isn't it? We haven't had any yet. Got disclaimers and vague wishy-washy nonsense and distancing language and being told how we've experienced. I haven't experienced this. Tell me about it. You did it, right? That would be your opener, wouldn't it?
Looking at them here from the surface of Earth.
Sorry, surface of Earth. I wonder if he twiddled his thumbs when he said that. He's definitely experienced that. Yeah, no hesitation in describing the surface of Earth. Okay, yes.
Now, up to this point, Neil Armstrong hasn't been licking his lips as much as Buzz Aldrin does. Like I said, he does it a lot. Neil Armstrong does it less. Let's go back and see what he's talking about and why he's licking his lips at this time.
Those of you who are looking at them here from the surface of Earth.
Whether or not that he's just not a comfortable public speaker, this does seem to be continuing to stress him out.
Yeah, he's talking about people looking at the fake and fraud and lies. So he's hesitating while he describes people looking at the fakery. That's what he's talking about, isn't he? Listen to what he's actually saying. This is why I love Deception Detective more than these body language analysts. Because when you listen to the actual words that are coming out of his mouth, it's a lot more telling. He's talking about us and how we experience these images that he's now lent into instead of his own personal experience. And then he pauses after describing how we will look at them. Us. The ones that he simultaneously expanded out his experience to initially. It's all very telling when you listen to the words he's saying.
There does seem to be stress here. And I understand they'd been in quarantine for like 21 days. They just got back from an incredibly complicated space mission.
Oh, you know that, do you? Yeah. And yet you just claimed that you weren't biased, that you were neutral. You already believe what he's telling us. You've taken it as read, and now you're bolstering it. Were you there? Were you in quarantine with them? You've got first-hand testimony from somebody who did experience them in quarantine. No, you did not. This is a disgusting disgrace. What a bias that you now show. How do you know they spent time in quarantine? You do not. You got the images that were presented to us that he's hesitant to talk about right this second. That's what you've got. Listen to his words. What you've taken as read are the images he's now so hesitant to speak of.
So there are reasons that they might feel stressed out.
Why are you making these excuses for him? This is an outrage.
Outside of the idea of deception and lying. But like I said, I'm trying to be as neutral as I can, and
No, you show your bias. I get frustrated with you and you immediately, like the last time, where I gave you a pass. Now I won't. You're not neutral. You've just given him everything he's lying about. You are a disgrace, Doctor. Not neutral. Let's get that absolutely clear. You're getting told off by me for it. If it's not bleeding glaringly obvious, you've just given him every bit of deception he's having to lie about. What a frickin' outrage. Neutral my ass.
And I'm trying to point out everything that I see that could be related to that. So
you didn't see him in quarantine here, sir. I hesitate to call you a doctor. Don't lie about what you are doing here. You have not just done that. Did you see him in quarantine, sir? No, your bias fails you. Very irritating. Don't disclaim your neutrality. You're not.
Let's keep watching. Let's see what else comes up.
Did we see the quarantine? Did that come up? Did you just watch that with your neutrality? And bullshit us, Doctor.
The flight, as you know, started promptly. And I think that was characteristic of...
Now, another thing you're going to see here is you're going to see a slight smirk come across his face. The question is why? Now, he's saying that the flight was prompt. Maybe there's a joke in that. Maybe there's something funny about that, or maybe that's a play on that idea. But you do see a smirk right here, which...
It's called many a true word spoken in jest. If they did do any flying, it wasn't for days on end around the moon, because that isn't an area they can fly through. Yeah? Now, some might call it duper's delight. I say many a true word spoken in jest.
Which we do sometimes actually associate, once again, with deceptiveness. Watch this right here.
The flight, as you know, started promptly.
You see that smile right there? Now, it could have been, once again, something about the idea of it being prompt. There may be some humor in that. Maybe that's something that I'm not fully understanding because I don't know the context of that part of it well enough. But that's a very clear smirk right here.
And I think that was characteristic of all the events of the flight. The Saturn gave us one magnificent ride, both into Earth orbit and on a trajectory to the moon.
Yeah, this would be where I would be screaming, "You stuttering liar," to him. Yeah? Because he's not done any of the things he just said, and now he's stuttering around his words about it.
Our memory of that actually differs little.
He's having to describe his memory. Just describe the event. Don't describe how your memory would vary in any way or instance. When you've got an actual memory of it, you just describe the memory. You don't tell people it's a memory, you just describe it. Instead, he's disclaiming how his memory may or may not change. I mean, my God.
Now, this was very interesting, and I'm going to break this down bit by bit. Let's go back here, because I want you to watch some important things. Okay, so first you saw him raise his eyebrows. Now, we do that for two things. Sometimes we do it when we're shocked, and sometimes we do it so that people will pay attention to our face. Like if you're in a crowd, you see somebody and you raise your eyebrows so that they'll see you. If you're talking to somebody and you raise your eyebrows, sometimes you do it for emphasis. But the goal is to bring attention to your face when you do that.
Straight to the moon. Our memory.
Now, I want you to pay close attention to his lips right there. He's compressing his lips. This specifically identifies stress or concern. Now, he's not quite withdrawing his lips. Sometimes people do that when there's something they don't want to say. But right here, this looks like there's significant stress and concern as he's specifically talking about this. Let's go watch this whole sequence again, because to me, it's so interesting.
Trajectory to the moon.
Okay, there wasn't one.
Our
hesitates. Why?
Our memory.
Because he's talking about him lying.
Of that actually differs little.
Of the greatest achievement, according to you, of mankind's history, is just reduced to that, as he stutters and hesitates about what he's actually saying.
From the reports that you have all heard from those previous Saturn V flights.
What we're seeing right now,
from the reports from a previous mission that isn't the greatest achievement of mankind's history. Okay. Bit more distancing language, perhaps.
Is different than what else we've seen up to this point, because right now we're seeing stress and concern. We're seeing him slow down in the way he's speaking.
Because he's talking about the greatest achievement of mankind's history that he's obviously done, and he's very proud of. So that's why we're seeing all these signs of deception, of course.
Stuttering a little bit. He's not as clear as he has been.
When talking about the greatest achievement of mankind's history that he definitely did do.
Up to this point. So it's interesting that as he's talking about their memory of events,
a memory of the events, just going to boil it down to the events. A moon landing, it's right there in your title. Events, yeah, greatest achievement of mankind's history, the thing they're lying about. Oh, by the way, they definitely came back and were in quarantine, according to you? So it definitely happened, right? No. Second law of thermodynamics violation, that's why they're lying. Not that you're unbiased.
That brings up stress and anxiety and concern. That being said, it doesn't mean that there isn't stress and anxiety concern actually going through the memory of doing that.
No, so they definitely did it, and it's because of the concerns of them actually doing it that's causing them the stress, according to you. Oh, wow. How nice of you to give them that. Good job you're unbiased. What a sad state of affairs. Are you delusional? Is that why you've told us how neutral you are twice? Yeah, I don't need to disclaim how neutral I am. I'm not neutral, I'm biased. Because I know there's no sky vacuum, so I can be biased against these lying shitbags. Because I know they're lying. I know that someone who tells me they've been to Narnia through a wardrobe is lying, so I'm going to be biased against them. What I'm not going to do is say, well, the stress of travelling through the wardrobe could be the reason why they're reliving that stress as they describe the White Witch in Narnia. I could do that and then disclaim how neutral I am. I could. I'm not going to. It's absolutely pathetic. So there we go. They travelled through the White Witch's lair, and the stress of that is... No, don't do that, Doctor. Don't do that.
Going to the moon, landing on the moon, all
the things you've decided they have done.
That is probably very anxiety provoking.
If they did it, they'd definitely be excited to tell you how they survived that ordeal, having done it and come back from it. But instead they're talking linguistically about the mission prior and how they did things differently. Yeah, that's not the kind of language I'd expect from somebody who'd achieved something that you're now giving them out of hand. You're just giving it them in your very unbiased, very neutral way.
Probably is a lot of stress associated with that.
Yeah. No, it's just stress about lying about it that you've given them. The events happened. It's just whether or not their stress is related to it actually happening, according to you. It didn't. That's why it's stressful. I know it didn't. So I don't have to question the reason and motivation behind their deceptive behaviour, demeanour and language. I know why they're having to lie, be deceitful and seem shady as all hell, because they didn't do what they said they'd do, and the very thing they said they did do is the thing you're giving them, and that's the same thing they're having to lie about.
So that doesn't mean that he's not having actual memories of it right now.
Oh, does he not? You know that, do you, Doctor? Clairvoyant much? Do you do this in court in front of a judge? Does the judge ask you where you got your crystal ball from?
But something is causing him to feel stress and concern as he's talking about that their memories differ very little than what's been reported.
Oh, I see. So their memories don't differ from the previous mission, which they didn't do, but the reports from the previous mission are very similar to the reports that they haven't given us yet. Just so we all know, it's going to be similar to what happened previously. Okay. And what happened previously only differs in the respect that we achieved mankind's greatest achievement, according to this lie these men are now peddling that you already believe. So, very neutral. Talking to the Doctor.
From the reports that you have all heard from those previous Saturn V flights, and those the previous flights served us well.
Were they also quite brief? Maybe we'll find out.
In preparation for this flight.
This flight, greatest achievement of mankind's history, or aka a complete lie this man's currently telling.
In the boost as well as the subsequent phases.
Subsequent phases being mankind's greatest achievement, now brought down to the words phases. Yeah, because that's how I would describe greatest achievement of mankind's history.
We would like to...
Now you saw him lean back again. So after he said that, after he got through all of the stress and concern of saying that, then he leaned backward. Once again, that's a way to gain emotional distance from the person we're speaking to, whether it's because it feels too intense or we're trying to disengage in some way. He just scooted back, he leaned forward again, but he felt the need to move backward. That's what would make him feel more comfortable at that time. So what we're seeing right now actually is a lot of stress and anxiety about this specific sequence of what he's talking about right now.
Yeah, but you can't analyse it because you've already disclaimed that you believe everything he's telling you about. So how can you possibly analyse it for deception when you believe what he's telling you? You automatically believe him. So you're cognitively biased. You're in cognitive dissonance, quite literally. Because on the one hand, you believe what he's lying about, but you can't believe the expressions and anxiety that he's displaying as he says it. So you aren't in a position to assess this as far as I'm concerned. You're biased.
In the boost as well as the subsequent phases.
You already believe him, Doctor, don't you? You think this man went to the moon, don't you? Doesn't matter that you're seeing the signs of deception are there. You just want to square the circle. So it's because of how stressful it was to go to the moon. Not that he's lying about going to the moon.
We would like to skip directly to...
See, it looked like he was going to say something. He pursed his lips together. He withdrew his mouth a little bit.
So what? I mean, at this point, I'm probably going to give up on this because all we're doing is looking at how a man speaks as opposed to the potential for deception. And the potential for deception's already been disclosed as, well, there is nothing to see here in terms of him not going to the moon, which is the thing he's talking about. The man's already accepted that as true. It's already been taken as read by the analyst. So what's the point in me continuing to assess it if this man who says he's unbiased and neutral accepts what is being said as true, even though he's assessing the deceptive nature it's being delivered to him with? How can I possibly carry on?
But leaned back and then regathered his thoughts.
So what? Thoughts about what? Because we've already decided, meaning you have already decided, he's done what he's describing. Now, he hasn't actually described any of it yet. He's talked about how much it will be like the previous one.
What it was that he was going to say doesn't mean it was anything profound, doesn't mean he's trying to hide anything.
Not profound, he's just achieved the greatest thing in mankind's history. Yeah, you'd think 2 or 3 minutes into him speaking that we'd be hearing plenty of profound things out of this man. No, it's all very vague, it's all very distanced from what he's supposed to have been doing, that you already accept he's done, regardless of him not even talking about it yet.
But his way of interacting right now, there's a lot going on under the surface right now.
The subsequent phases. We would like to skip directly to...
So now they're going through different aspects of the flight. We're going to be skipping around some, and after this, we're going to look at some of the Q&A.
Relatively close range. It had a decided three-dimensional effect and was undoubtedly one of the most impressive.
Now, one thing you're seeing right now is you're seeing Buzz Aldrin playing with a pen. You're going to be seeing this throughout. But this is a way, once again, to help manage feeling stressed or concerned. So when we're fidgeting like that, think about there's a goal in everything that we do body language-wise, and that is to calm ourselves down. You can...
Yeah, why would you need to be calm in this respect? You'd be excited, overexcited about the achievement that you'd actually fulfilled in this regard, going to the moon, which definitely didn't happen. So even though it's only going to be a 45-minute session today, I think I've reacted enough for this for me to understand my own limitations of frustration with somebody who's completely biased towards the events that are being described. So with that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. But if you're watching this on the members only live stream, this is where we bid you farewell. So massive thank you to all of you who hopefully let this videographer know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, joined as a member and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video. Oh. Well, I said there's going to be an after show to follow. I was thinking that a few people might have joined in my stream, but being British, this is actually pretty early in the morning. It's still before 10 o'clock a.m., so obviously there's no one around to actually join me in this live stream. I thought I'd seen a few people actually pop in and join me in the Discord server, but obviously not. So while I say stay tuned, there'll be an after show to follow. There isn't going to be because there's nobody here to talk to. So other than me reacting to myself, reacting to a guy reacting to the moon landing hoax, there's not a lot else for me to say. I've pretty much said it all in the live stream that just went out to members. So with that, another massive thank you to all of you joined in this, what would it be, uncut and after show. I've been Nathan Oakley and I'll see you all in the next video.